House of EdTech, episode 56.
This is Stephanie Ryan from Texas, middle school math teacher and certified technology nerd, and you are listening to the House of EdTech with Chris Nesi.
This episode of the House of EdTech is brought to you by Audible.com. You're entitled to 2 free audiobooks as an awesome listener of the House of EdTech. To get your 30-day free trial and 2 free audiobooks that are yours to keep, go to chrisnesi.com/audible. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nesi, and the House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools and sharing tools and tips that you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators just like you and have them share their stories. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome back to another fantastic episode of the House of EdTech podcast. I am so happy you are here joining me. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is a podcast. I don't know when you're listening, but as always, thank you for checking in with the show. Coming up in this episode, I have an EdTech thought, my EdTech recommendation, and of course, a House of EdTech VIP. And today's main topic, I'm going to be talking a little bit about professional development and teacher choice and some of my thoughts on that. First, I do have some feedback that we got in recently related to one of Caitlin's last appearances on the show where we talked about why we like things on Twitter. So let's head over to the House of EdTech voicemail.
You have one new message.
Hi, Chris and Caitlin. I'm listening to your current episode of the House of EdTech, and I have to agree with the whole Twitter and the liking. I use it just like I use Feedly for save for later. I'm quickly looking through my Twitter because I try to spend only a couple minutes at different times each day looking at it, and if there's something that's of interest, I'll like it just so when I have more time to actually sit down and go back and look at whatever was posted, check out whatever link was shared. I can then have that grouping of likes to go back to and check out.
Thank you very much for that voicemail feedback. And while I failed to tell you who that was Dan Gallagher, who is Gallagher_tech on Twitter. And there'll be a link to his Twitter account in the show notes. I agree with you that, well, obviously you agree with us, we're liking with a purpose. And I like how you are doing that for yourself. I think when we are participating in social media, it's good to use things like favorites and even the messages we send in general to send with intention. So as we had talked about a couple episodes ago, not liking just to like or why do you like things? And again, it's okay to like things for the sake of liking them, but that whole thought originally just came up because I just see so many people liking things and I really don't understand why they like stuff. Stacy Lindis had contributed some text feedback via Voxer because, we talk. And she also is in the same camp as myself, Caitlin, and Dan, and she favorites with a purpose. She uses IFTT, and she also puts things using a recipe from things she favorites on Twitter that get dropped into an Evernote note. If you want to send in your own voicemail feedback, you can do that through Voxer, or you can call the feedback hotline with the old-fashioned telephone, and that number is 732-903-4869. And thank you, Dan, for sending in your feedback. If you share a differing opinion and you'd like to share that, be sure, please send that in. We're not all about just agreeing with what I say or me agreeing with everybody else says. So if you feel something different, please send in that feedback, and I'd really appreciate that. And thank you again, Dan Gallagher, for sharing your thoughts with us. What else is going on? We are here on spring break from Rutgers, so that's nice, except that since I have the the day job, I don't have to go to Rutgers, but I still have, regular school. And then when I have my spring break, I will still have to go to Rutgers, which has happened 3 times this year. Once on a snow day and a couple other times where I wasn't in New Brunswick, but still had to go to Rutgers. And I just have to say, I'm really enjoying, and I've said it before, I'm really enjoying this whole college experience. And I'm actually happy to say that tentatively I've been invited back to do either this same course, Leadership in Digital Contexts, or perhaps another course for the fall 2016 semester. So big shout out and thank you to Mary Chaco, who is my program director at the School of Communication at Rutgers University. But, I'm just having a blast with that. I can't say enough nice things about the kids I'm working with. And as I record this episode, we're getting ready to come back from their spring break, and they're going to be doing their midterms, which I implemented a midterm passion project with the students in the Rutgers class, and I'm looking forward to them sharing their passions and their projects, whatever they were creative enough to come up with at the end of the month on, I believe it's March 28th. Yes, March 28th. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with and sharing that here, because I think it'll be interesting to see what college students are able to come up with given complete freedom of choice and the ability to kind of basically do what they want and just demonstrate what they're passionate about. And I know that we kind of do that, or many of you have done that or want to do that with your K-12 classroom. But, there could be constraints that you have to work within. So I'm just interested in reporting back what the college student is able to come up with. Also, and again, I'm just giving some highlights and some news and updates here at the top of the show. I have purchased, and I'm very excited about this, I have purchased my Batman v Superman tickets, and I if you know me, or even if this is the first time, let me tell you, I am a complete Superman fanatic. So I'm very much looking forward to the film, and my tickets are purchased. If you are going to be excited or purchasing, or if you're going to be seeing Batman vs. Superman, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that after the movie comes out, so we can geek out on comic book talk. And again, Voxer, Twitter, no spoilers though. I'm not going to be seeing it opening weekend, but again, I'm very excited. So purchase your tickets today. Also, big news here on March 12th, Miles, my son, my oldest son, and that's still funny to say, celebrated his 4th birthday. So here on the podcast, I just wanted to give a big happy 4th birthday to you, Miles. Someday you will be forced to listen to each and every episode of the House of EdTech, not just the episodes where I use you to introduce the show. So I can't believe it's been 4 years. He was born in 2012, so that's some quick, easy math for me to do, because it's easy math. So happy birthday to you, and I can't wait to get you maybe doing your own podcast, and that'll be really exciting. If you'd like to share your birthday wishes with Miles, you could send them to me on Twitter and just use the hashtag Happy Birthday Miles, and Miles is with an I, and that'll be really cool. He's only 4, but he understands what Twitter is, and he loves Voxer. So if you want to wish him, actually, you know what? He'd get a kick out of you sending me a Voxer message to him so he could hear you wish him a happy birthday. That would really make him excited. And speaking of birthdays, as we zip along here, happy birthday to a great friend and friend of the show, Tina Monteleone. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for listening to the show as always. You're a fine New Jersey educator, and if you want to wish Tina a happy birthday, please do so. She is on Twitter at Tina Monte, M-O-N-T-E, and I'm sure she'd love your birthday wishes. And now, because this is a Education Podcast Network show, I want to share some love, and here's a little commercial from Jeff Bradbury from the TeacherCast Network, who is also a member of the Education Podcast Network. Take it away, Mr. Bradbury.
Hello, everybody. Jeff Bradbury here from the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. We have 2 great shows for you that you can check out here on our network. The first is Educational Podcasting Today, the podcast that helps you create a great podcast and an amazing website to go along with it. You can find all the information out on educationalpodcasting.today. Our other show is our live show, which we record proudly every single Sunday night at 7 o'clock, called the Tech Educator Podcast, your live weekly webinar. 2 great shows, 1 great network. Educational Podcasting Today and the Tech Educator Podcast, only here on the Education Podcasting Network. Check us out today. Follow us on Twitter at TeacherCast and leave us a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, my name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for listening to the House of EdTech. Keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
Thank you, Jeff, for sending in that audio. I appreciate it. And look, Jeff does a fantastic job with teachercast.net. He's a one-man band, and he creates really good content. So, of course, check out Educational Podcasting Today and also the Tech Educator Podcast, again, on teachercast.net. And you can also get to those shows by visiting our network website, edupodcastnetwork.com. And you can also get those updates if you follow the network on Twitter. And the network Twitter handle is edupodnet. And speaking of the Education Podcast Network, I finally scheduled a conversation with another show on the network, the fantastic Jennifer Gonzalez, who hosts the Cult of Pedagogy podcast over on cultofpedagogy.com. We are going to be talking really soon, and I'm looking forward to bringing you that conversation in a future episode of the podcast. So that's enough news, I think, although it is my show, and as always, I can do what I please. But let's get on to some more meat and potatoes and some more valuable content. So let's easy for me to say, as always, let's head over to the EdTech Thought. This episode's EdTech Thought is being lumped together with the featured content and what the whole title of this episode is about. So, we're going to be talking about professional development with teacher choice and sandbox time. Today's topic was inspired by a recent EdSurge article titled 5 Ways to Create More Teacher Rockstars in Your School. And this article was written by Kerry Gallagher and Kyle Pace. Kyle Pace is currently an instructional technology specialist at Lee's Summit Schools in Lee's Summit, Missouri. Kerry Gallagher is a technology integration specialist in a one-to-one iPad school serving 1,500 students in grades 6 through 12. Kyle's Twitter handle is at Kyle Pace, KYLEPACE, and Kerry's Twitter handle is Kerry, KERRY, Hawk02. Now, I'm just going to be highlighting one point of the 5 ways that you could have more teacher rock stars in your building. And the reason this part stuck out to me is because I recently did what I'm about to talk about. So here's the excerpt from their blog post. Quote, teachers are told time and time again to differentiate, personalize, and meet their students where they are. Why doesn't the same ring true for professional development? Teachers should be offered choices around topics, presenters, and how their PD is structured. In our experience, teachers also want to see tried and true examples. Speakers and trainers can speak in front of a group of educators for hours about what they should do in their classrooms, but concrete examples make the experience more meaningful. It is possible to provide both choice and real examples for in-house PD, and here's how. Number 1, create teacher choice by offering an EdCamp-style event in place of a faculty meeting. Number 2, your faculty isn't quite ready for EdCamp? Well, survey them in advance and ask them what they want to spend time learning. Go figure. You ask people questions to find out what they want to do. And that's me just kind of jumping in. To get back to number 2, based on their feedback, target your most gifted teachers to lead the professional learning. And number 3, make sure PD facilitators don't plan to talk for the entire time allotted. When teachers talk with each other and have sandbox time, they will learn more and are more likely to bring that learning to their students. So that's the excerpt from this article, 5 Ways to Create More Teacher Rockstars in Your School. Again, and this article appeared on edsurge.com. The reason this stuck out to me is because this works. Recently, at my high school, I sat down with my principal, and he had questioned me about what we could do for an upcoming PD day that has since passed, but we had students scheduled for a half day, and then it was going to be their afternoon for PD. So we had 3 hours and change to fill. So me being the tech-savvy guy that I am, and the relationship that I developed with him since the start of the school year, he sought my input, which I really appreciated. So I suggested doing an EdCamp-style PD with our teachers. So he said, tell him more. So I explained the whole EdCamp concept to my principal. And while he thought it was cool and is very into teacher choice, he ultimately made the decision that we didn't want to waste any time doing like session development on the spot. So then we came up with the idea of, let's have a mini conference. Let's put out a call for proposals and see what our people, our teachers, want to present on and talk about and teach and learn. So this was a really great idea. And then I realized, because he gave me more information, that we had less than a week to put it together. So some of the technology, again, because this is the House of EdTech, some of what went into this. I was able to create Google Forms and a Google site to set up a website for this mini conference where we put up a form to call for proposals, which we got back 12 solid workshops. And then on the Google website, we put up the sessions, and I created a separate form where people, or my teachers, could register for the sessions they wanted to attend. And we divided the day into 3 sessions of 45 to 50 minutes. One of the concerns that my principal had was creating a balance for teachers who were going to be attending the different sessions. So one of the solutions that I came up with was to find and use the Google add-on in Forms called Choice Eliminator. And that allowed us to go in and decide, once people picked a certain workshop, we put a cap on it. So if 20 people picked my session, we capped it at 20 people, then that choice would not be available and people wouldn't even know it was there. That was really good and created a balance of people attending workshops and not having too many people in one session. And if you haven't played with Choice Eliminator, definitely check it out. It's a little... They've updated it recently. It was a little wonky for my principal and I to figure out, believe it or not. But once we did, it worked, and the choices were eliminated, and people were able to register ahead of time for what they wanted to participate in. So that was really good. Some of the other technology that went into that day was putting up the available sessions so people could see the descriptions and the times, real basic stuff for what you put on a conference website. We had the 3 sessions. And I presented 2 workshops. One I did twice, the other I did one time. And the first one was called, We Have Chromebooks, Now What? So that was me sharing with my teachers in my school who we just got basically one-to-one Chromebooks in the building. And Chrome and Google is new to so many teachers in my building. I did a session on what they could now actually do to engage their students with Chromebooks in the classroom. And to give just the quick summary of that session, it was basically, okay, we have Chromebooks. When do you want to use them? Are you going to use them every day, all the time, every lesson? And right off the bat, I instilled in them that no, you don't want to use the Chromebooks every day, every lesson, because then the technology will become boring to you. It'll become boring to the students. So even though you have it, you still have to integrate technology with a purpose. And it has to bring value to your lesson. Not just because we have it, we're going to use it. That's not the right way to integrate technology, at least in my opinion. I know many of you agree with me. Some of you may not. If you'd like to share your thoughts, you know what to do. The other thing that we did to kind of make this easy on us was to give out the PD certificates. I utilized something I learned from Jeff Bradbury, who we heard from earlier, and also from Adam Schoenbart, who is really good with forms and scripts and everything. And Adam has strongly recommended the Autocrat add-on for Google Forms and Sheets. So I was able to auto-generate the PD certificates, and that was really cool because, again, doing Autocrat, I was able to send out confirmation emails so people knew what they were registered for and would be reminded of what they were registered for. And then in the end, we were able to send out the certificates as well. And that was really easy. And overall, the response was very, very positive because I used another Google form where people could rate and provide feedback for the sessions that they attended. as well as the day overall. And overwhelmingly, my colleagues in my high school totally do not want sit and get PD. Almost everything was, this was great. There was a lot of choice. They appreciated the choice and being asked what they wanted to learn. The teachers who presented, they really expressed happiness in being able to offer what they're interested in. And again, prior to that, under a different superintendent and a different principal, choice wasn't really a thing for us. And even at the start of this school year, again, because it's probably pre-scheduled, we had, 3-hour and 6-hour PD on the same topic in your department, not really getting to mix and talk with teachers from different content areas. Whereas this day, again, I based it on an ed camp, except we had predefined sessions. One of the cool sessions that I really helped to make sure that it did run was my high school's culinary arts teacher wanted to offer a session on making toffee. And my principal was a little skeptical about that at first. And when I said that this session needed to run, he asked me why. So I spun it for 2 reasons, or I gave him 2 reasons. One, you have a culinary arts teacher who's willing to present. What else is a teacher like that going to present on? And not every workshop at a conference needs to be hardcore rooted in pedagogy and, standards. Sometimes your teachers just need to get the personal development, because I believe that the P and PD could be professional or personal. And to spin it one step further, we had the culinary arts teacher make sure that she talked about how she engages her students in the culinary arts classroom and some of the classroom management techniques that she uses in her kitchen. So again, overall, it was really cool. And I 100% recommend, if you have any interest in really changing and shaping the PD in your district or your school, the first place you need to start is with choice. And that is my EdTech thought and the featured content. And now it's time for this episode's EdTech recommendation. And this is really cool. Today I want to talk to you guys about Teleprompter. Teleprompter teaches you how to speak like a professional, like I haven't really been doing in this episode. So using Teleprompter, you're using patent-pending technology powered by over 10,000 speeches. Using the average phonetic duration technique, you can sound just like the pros. Hosted in the cloud, Teleprompter is a professional teleprompting application with a clean, engineered user interface aimed toward anyone who needs to read a script into a camera, or, as I'm literally using it right now, into a podcast. With patent-pending prompt timer technology, your speeches will flow like a pro using years of research that counts the average duration you should spend on each part of your speech, down to the letter. Multiple eye tracking tests have proven that Teleprompter is the only teleprompter application available that minimizes noticeable eye movement as you read through your script. But that's not a problem here because it's not video. Even with the free version, your viewers won't be able to tell you're reading from a script. Except I told you I am, but that's just so I can really use this product. But to stay on track. But am I on track, or is this all scripted? Maybe. You'll never know. You can even add multiple speakers with ease, and each participant's words are easily identified with different colors. The cost, of course, is free. Basic teleprompter functionality on desktop or mobile can be yours at no cost forever. Teleprompter would be a welcome addition to your school's news, whether it's video or not, and you can even have students use this technology when presenting in class or even during assemblies. I'm using it right now to demo this part of the podcast, and you should check it out too. So head over to teleprompter.com. That's teleprompter.com. And that is this episode's EdTech recommendation. And now it's time for this episode's House of EdTech VIP. Congratulations to my California friend, Brent Warner. Brent is the founder of EdTech.tv, and he hosts the EdTech.tv podcast. Brent has his master's in teaching from the University of Southern California. Brent defines his approach to teaching about EdTech as an enthusiast who wants to find interesting ideas in teaching technology and sharing it with you. He's been teaching for over a dozen years, and he focuses his areas of interest in 3 zones. Number 1, education. Number 2, communication. And number 3, technology. These 3 zones are intrinsically intertwined, and Brent loves to explore how each of them can help make you a better teacher. He is also currently a professor at both USC and Irvine Valley College. Please connect with Brent Warner on Twitter. His username is EdTechTV. His website is edtech.tv. And also, in your podcast catcher of choice, make sure you check out the edtech.tv podcast. Congratulations, Brent. You are the House of EdTech VIP. And that's going to do it for a relatively shorter episode of the House of EdTech podcast. Thank you to Audible for sponsoring this episode of the show. Again, if you'd like to get your 2 free audiobooks, just go to chrisnessy.com/audible and you can sign up for that 30-day free trial and help out a podcast that you enjoy. Also, please keep the conversation going. You can get all the links and all the show notes over on my website, chrisnessy.com. And to get to this episode's notes, you're going to go to chrisnessy.com/56. The show notes for this episode will contain all the links that I shared with you today. And of course, I would love to connect with you and hear your thoughts on the information and resources shared in this and every episode of the podcast. Just go to chrisnessy.com and click on Share Feedback. That's going to give you access to my email address and all the ways you can connect with me. The fastest is Twitter. My username is Mr. Nessy, MRNESI, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech. And also, I'm still accepting submissions, and this is rolling and ongoing, for your EdTech questions or your EdTech thoughts. Use it on Twitter, or you can Vox me. My username is Mr. Nessy, or you can call in that feedback or question at 732-903-4869. And if you enjoyed the House of EdTech, here's 2 things you can do to help me out. Number 1, tell somebody. That's the best thing you can do. Number 2, rate and review this podcast in iTunes. Your rating and honest review will help keep the podcast front and center for others to discover and enjoy. And if you'd like to, you can also support the show through patreon.com. Just go to chrisnessy.com/awesome. On the next episode of the House of EdTech, it's that time of year, everybody. It's time for the 2016 EdTech Final Four. Which technology tool will come out number 1 in my bracket? You could find out on the House of EdTech episode number 57, which I'll be releasing on March 27th, 2016. Thanks again for joining me. And remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try. The House of EdTech is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more, go to edupodcastnetwork.com.